I'm Samela St. Pierre. I'm a local artist here in Framingham, and Access Framingham very graciously invited me to hang up some of my artwork. The current project I'm working on is an illustration project bringing to life the myths from my culture, which is the Andean people of the Andes, Quechua, Ashaninka, all of those folks. So I wanted to go back to pre-Columbian times for the most part, things like before the Spanish came to South America, and bring and illustrate those stories. So a good place to start is here. This basically sets up the concept behind the whole mythos or structure of how the world works, right? The Inca and so lots of folks down there. And there's three parts. So here we see embodied Pachamama, so you can think of her as Mother Earth. There's three parts to the Incan world. There is Kai Pacha, that's there's Uku Pacha, that's the underworld. It's symbolized by the snake, and that's the place where gold, minerals, and gems live, but also the dead. There's Kai Pacha, symbolized by a jaguar, and that's where we live, humans. Exist, animals and trees, what we're seeing here. And the third is Hanan Pacha, and you can think of that as the heavens, birds and gods and celestial beings exist on this plane. There's interplay between the planes, of course, but we basically have a three-part system here, a three-realm system in this mythos. These paintings are made in watercolor and ink. This painting is of an Ashaninka woman. So the Ashaninka are still a tribe living in South America today. Every morning they wake up with their paste, their red paste, and they paint their faces to express their feelings and how their mood of the day. So you don't need to ask somebody how they're doing because it's literally written on their face. So it's really beautiful self-expression that's at the core of their beliefs and values. Here we have the legendary warrior Pachacuti and his stone army. So back in the day before the Inca were an empire, if you can call it that, before they were as powerful as we know them now, they were civilization within other civilizations, warring tribes. And there was an invading army, and the Inca were like, we are outnumbered, we're outmanned, we're outgunned, we should leave and just desert the city and basically give Cusco to these invaders. But an army general, his name is Pachacuti, was like, well, I'm gonna stay behind with my men, like my troops, and we're going to defend the city to the last man. We're definitely going to die. It's a suicide mission, but we're willing to do that. So the Inca and all of the people leave Cusco, and only the commander and his folks are left. He sees the army coming up. So they have the high ground, and they can see the army ascending. And Pachacuti, realizing that this is a suicide mission, knowing, he dedicates the battle to Inti, the sun god. Any blood spilt today is dedicated to you. Inti is a prideful god and a powerful god. And so he decides to gift Pachacuti his power for the battle. And he animates the stones at his feet to come to life and crush the ascending army. So they win the battle. The Inca reign supreme. The other army never rise again. They stay subdued. They actually get incorporated into the Inca empire as it expands. And Pachacuti is so revered that he becomes the Sapa Inca, or the emperor, if you will. So we can look back and say, did the sun really animate the stones, or was Pachacuti just a brilliant military strategist and was able to roll the stones down and crush the ascending army? in a way, whichever you believe, it doesn't matter because he won, right? So ends justifies the means. Here we have a less heroic figure in the story of the Inca, and that's Inca Atahualpa. So Atahualpa is the emperor who ends up getting kidnapped and ransomed by the Spanish conquistadors, by Pizarro. But I illustrated this to show the way things moved. So there's no wheels being used in the Inca Empire. The roads are treacherous through the Andes, huge mountain range. The bridges are treacherous, and well, actually, they were constructed pretty amazingly, but still, a cart would not be a great option here. So often folks are like, oh, the Inca never invented the wheel. It's like, well, that's not true. We can prove that because they have toys, like children's toys that have wheels on the bottom, you know, a little llama like moving through, for example. But wheels are just not a reasonable thing to be using on a mountain road. And so the preferred mode of travel was walking, marching, running. The Inca and Quichua people are incredible runners, even at that high altitude. And to be carried in royal litters like this. So here we have a story about Gaviasa, who's this beautiful woman, young woman, who is still undecided on who she wants to marry. And she has her choice of whoever she would like. She's that gorgeous. And she's always like accepting all these gifts and all these guys and all this attention. And she's basically just like waiting, like biding out her time. The god Goniraya falls in love with her, predictably. And he doesn't even like try with her because he basically knows that he'd have to like transform into somebody like really magnificent and beautiful to impress her, and that's not really his vibe. He's more of a dress in rags and have everyone think that you're like a scrub kind of attitude, and then see how you treat him and then curse you for not treating him nicely. He's a trickster god. Like, think of him as a trickster god. So he doesn't even bother trying to get her to fall in love with him. Instead, you can see him here. He puts his seed into a lucuma fruit that falls right in her lap. And she's like, a ripe piece of fruit. Eats it, gets pregnant, all right? She's like, 9 months later, she's like, what is happening? Like, why, whose baby is this? Like, who is the father? And everyone's like, we don't know, like, it wasn't me. So she calls all of the men who've like ever talked to her, all the gods, all the demigods, all the humans, all of them, into council, and she's like, somebody better step forward right now and claim their son, or claim their child. And nobody does. Everyone's like, I wish it was me. So she's like, I'm putting this baby on the floor right now, and whoever he crawls to, I'm gonna know that that's the father. So she does. She puts the baby on the ground, and the baby starts crawling towards Koniraya. And Koniraya, who's like just disheveled, dirty, smelly guy, Gaviasa is so embarrassed to having gotten pregnant, tricked into getting pregnant by this like gross dude, that she picks up the baby and turns around and just starts running away in shame. Now Koniraya like turns into his like beautiful like true self and is like, wait, it was just a joke. Like, I'm actually gorgeous and really powerful. She doesn't want to hear it. She never turns back to look around. She's already like down the mountain. So Koniraya follows her to the sea, and we'll pick up on this story later on, but this is that moment of trickery. So, a new princess story. This is the story of Waita Payana, who is the daughter of a powerful god and ruler in the Inca Empire, like in the pantheon, I should say. And his beautiful daughter, he decides to keep in a secret garden on a mountaintop. And she's happy there. It's not like a princess in a tower story where she needs to escape. She's like living in the Garden of Eden, living her best life. And Amaru, who's the dragon king, is flying overhead. He happens to see this beautiful woman and just leaves his wife and children and decides to go talk to her. And they have this beautiful like love affair. They end up falling in love and having children together. And the thing about powerful leaders is that they have enemies. And Waitabayana's father, he messes in the wrong way, or messes with the demon Wayayo Carwincho in a way that he finds unacceptable. So to get back at him, Wayayo Carwincho kills the Dragon King Amaru, knowing that it'll break Waitabayana's heart, which will then break the heart of her father, who loved her so much. And so this is that moment of the Dragon King Amaru being slain. And so Waitabayana does end up turning to stone because her heart melts out. Her heart freezes over, actually, and she's a mountain range down in South America. And they say if she were ever to thaw out, she would bring destruction to the world because her heart would have melted out. She would have no more compassion left. And yeah, kind of sad, or really sad, but those mountains are actually melting due to cosmic karma or global warming was for you to decide, and it has actually killed tens of thousands of people in mudslides. So we do see some of our myths coming back and affecting us in real time. So here we pick back up on the story of Kaviase having run away from Koniraya, the trickster god. So she throws herself to the sea. And the fish goddess, fish goddess Urpiwachai, and she's a fish and bird goddess, lives on the sea, goes to help her, goes to comfort her in this moment of shame. There's a lot of stories of a female friendship persevering in this culture. And Koniraya, he basically makes it to the sea, but he hasn't found Kaviase yet. He still hasn't. Spoilers, he never finds her. He's still looking. But what he does find instead is the unprotected daughters of Urpiwachai, the fish and bird goddess. And he's like, well, while I'm looking for this other chick, I would love to sleep with you. And the daughters are like, no thanks, we're super not interested. He's like, cool, I wasn't asking, I'm telling you what I'm gonna do. What he doesn't know is when he goes to grab them, Urpiwachai has taught them how to transform into birds. So they very easily just transform into all these birds of paradise and fly away to safety. And so the moral of the story we can get from there, well, one, if you're a trickster guy, don't be. But also that as parents or as mothers, it's our job to empower our daughters and our children to fend for themselves at a certain point. Right? Here we have Tulumania, the double-headed ancient rainbow dragon god of the Inca. This is one of the children of Amaru and Waitabayana before he was brutally murdered. And so rainbows to the Quichua are double-headed dragon gods. You never see their heads because you never find the ends of the rainbow. That's it, actually, on this one. So we have some more elusive characters within the pantheon as well. Some entities that you can imagine are bigger than just trickster god here, moon goddess there. And these are the twin gods of chaos and darkness. You can imagine, this is where it all began. So it's Tutanyamang, I can do this. Tutanyamka and Yananyamka are the twin gods of darkness and chaos. And when we allow them to infiltrate our lives, it's not just an outer chaos and darkness, it becomes internal. And these are not things that we can control. They're things we can try to avoid or mitigate. You don't want to get on their bad side. So the Inca really only had 3 maybe 4 laws. Over there, stealing or killing. The Inca really had like 3-4 laws. One was do not kill, like no murder. No, not state-sanctioned murder, I should say. Don't steal personal property or food or llamas or anything like that. The 4th was pay your taxes, because they were not a consumer society. Like, people did not have money. The kingdom had wealth. And the 4th was don't be lazy. All 4 of these are punishable by corporal punishment or even death. Yes, even laziness. One of the ways that people would be punished within the society, but also if it was like an invader, right? So somebody outside of the society, was by being tied to a post and then pushed off the mountain. So if you've ever seen The Emperor's New Groove on the Disney Channel, or like that Disney movie, and I got lots of feedback about like how historically inaccurate or whatever it was, that moment when the llama and Pacha like fall off the mountain is technically based in historical accuracy. And this painting is an illustration of El Torreón, and this is in Machu Picchu. So this is one of the very few examples that we see of a rounded edge, it's like a tower, Torreón tower, in Inca architecture at all. And you have to understand, like, these are masterful stonemasons and architects. They did not use mortar between the stones. They just perfectly chiseled away, perfectly shaped all of the stones to fit snugly in a way that could be leaned against, that could be built on top of, that could withstand the earthquakes. That's one of the major things that even when the Spanish came and they built their own superior buildings on top, for years those things would just crumble down, would just fall and break apart, all their wood structures. But these stone structures, to this day, hundreds and hundreds of years later, persist. Right? And we know the Incas were about 400 or so years ago, but there are some estimates that place these stone structures much earlier than that. So these are 11 paintings out of a 74 painting project, 44 completed so far, and they'll be turned into a tarot deck, a Tarot of the Inca tarot deck when the project's complete. I'm always looking for inspiration and studying more about these stories that are written in very, very dry texts with very, very little pictures. And so I thought, okay, well, I have a solution to that because I make pictures. And so that's why it's slow going. I want to research everything and represent everyone and my own people like righteously and beautifully. So yeah, follow along as I bring out more paintings.